Hello, my friends. Welcome to Sleep with Stories. Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, as the world quiets down and the stars begin to shine, let's take a journey together. Find a comfortable place to rest, let go of the day's worries, and allow yourself to drift into a peaceful state. Imagine the gentle whispers of the wind and the soft rustling of leaves as you settle in. Tonight's story is a calm exploration of the beauty that surrounds us, both above and below. So, take a deep breath and let the serenity of the moment guide you as we begin our peaceful adventure. In this episode, we have a sleepy retelling of one of Aesop's fables about an astronomer and the importance of appreciating where you are and what you have. Let's take a moment to relax before we start tonight's story. I'm sure we've all spent countless evenings staring into the vast, empty expanse of outer space, looking at those little twinkling lights above and wondering what lies out there in that eternity of stars. I personally find such wonder in those moments, gazing at the sky and contemplating the frankly incomprehensible vastness of space. It's humbling, isn't it? So why not imagine that scene with me now, as you begin to settle into a peaceful sleep. Transport yourself back to a time when you were lying comfortably, perhaps in your garden, on a hammock, or even on the beach, gazing at the stars. Feel the tranquility of that moment, the gentle breeze around you, the stillness of the night. As you breathe deeply, let the peace of the universe wrap around you, reminding you of how grand the world truly is. And perhaps, just perhaps, you might also realize how small and insignificant some of life's everyday burdens can feel when viewed against the backdrop of the cosmos. You see, the problems we face day to day are like temporary bumps on a long road. They might seem daunting at times, but they're just fleeting moments in an endless journey. And when you look beyond your world, remember that your place in the vast universe is just as significant as anything else in existence. In this very moment, you are exactly where you need to be. So, let's breathe deeply again, my friend. You are here, safe and sound, and you can rest. Now, as you drift towards sleep, let's begin our story. Once, there lived an astronomer, a man who was deeply mesmerized by the night sky. Each night, he would stay awake, gazing at the constellations that sparkled above him, marveling at their beauty. He lived in a small village in ancient Greece, nestled among mountains that rose from the sea. The village, surrounded by lush hillsides dotted with small houses, felt like its own constellation in the distance, glowing softly under the night sky. Although he lived in such a wonderful place, the astronomer had one singular passion. Ever since he had discovered the beauty of the night sky, he had cared for little else. His home was small, a simple white house with only the basics: a bed, a desk, and a chair. There was no need for anything else. He spent his nights recording the stars, carefully noting the constellations from his desk. He rarely entertained visitors, for the astronomer didn't have time for such things. The night sky was far too vast, and there were still so many wonders above to discover. He believed these celestial bodies held the answers to guiding travelers, telling time, and even predicting the seasons. His dreams were filled with the stars, and in his mind, he was one with the sky. He often longed to float into space to get a better look at the pinpricks of light that made up his life's work. The corner of Greece where he lived was blessed with clear skies, and the astronomer wanted to learn as much about them as he could. Each night, he wandered farther from the village, walking over rocky paths to see the stars from different perspectives. The people of the village lived their lives in the familiar rhythm of farming, gardening, and fishing. Everyone knew everyone else's business, But for the astronomer, there was so much more to explore beyond their daily lives. He felt that the heavens held endless possibilities, mysteries far beyond the reach of everyday existence. To make the most of his time stargazing, the astronomer slept during the hot afternoons, while his friends and family gathered to share long, hearty meals. As the village fell into a quiet slumber at night, he would wander the fields alone, climbing hills and strolling along the rocky paths, his eyes always fixed on the stars. One evening, a storm broke, and as the rest of the village began to wake, the astronomer retreated to the privacy of his small home. He would write down his observations from the night before, capturing every detail before drifting off to sleep again. The galaxies, the stars, the celestial bodies. These were the things that fascinated him. They were the most exciting things in his life, and they all happened in the stillness of the night. During the day, the sunlight illuminated everything, but when the night sky took over, there was so much that remained a mystery. It was in the quiet of the night that the astronomer felt most alive. He would stare into space, contemplating the vastness and the unknown. And perhaps as he lay there, he was more at peace with himself, knowing that in the grand scheme of things, his life, too, was part of something much larger. As we reflect on his story tonight, let it remind us to slow down and appreciate the present moment. Just as the astronomer found solace in the stars, we too can find peace in the quiet moments of our own lives. The universe, in all its vastness, offers us a reminder: we are not alone. It was a challenge for the astronomer to learn about it all. The endless beauty of the universe, the mysteries of the stars, and the boundless questions that seem to stretch across the heavens. As the seasons passed, he watched the stars twinkle in their ever-changing patterns, while the landscape around him shifted. Though he was unaware of it, he only ventured out during the night, consumed by his passion for the stars. Because of this, the astronomer never noticed the blooming of new flowers in the spring, or the earthy sweetness of autumn in the air. These were the things that others had observed, for they focused on the world below, while he was lost in the wonders above. He believed that all the knowledge of the world had already been discovered by others. The beauty of the land, the flourishing of life, the patterns of nature. These things were already understood. What intrigued him most were the things hidden in the night sky, the untapped potential, the secrets waiting to be uncovered. The astronomer watched the stars and constellations with awe. He sought out Artemis's hunt in the heavens, and in the constellations, he searched for the gods of Olympus. Sometimes, under the silver glow of the moon, he would visit the temple of Artemis, paying tribute to the beauty of the sky above. The temple in his village had an open roof, perfect for stargazing, and yet, he rarely noticed the sculpted marble columns or the carved statues around him. His mind was always elsewhere, drawn to the creations in the sky. One night, as he wandered along the path, gazing upwards as he always did, the astronomer admired the way the Big Dipper and Little Dipper fit together like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. He was so caught up in the stars that he failed to notice the log lying in his path. With a sudden stumble, he tripped over the log and found himself tangled in his robes on the ground. The sound of his fall caught the attention of his neighbor, who came out to see what had happened. The astronomer chuckled to himself, feeling a bit embarrassed, as his neighbor helped him back to his feet. The neighbor, with a wise and gentle smile, asked, "My friend, why do you spend so much time looking at the stars when you fail to see what's right in front of you?" The astronomer laughed, thinking of the beauty he found in the stars, the joy of gazing at worlds so far away from his own. But for a moment, he wondered if his neighbor might be right. Perhaps he had spent too much time with his eyes fixed on the heavens, and not enough time appreciating the beauty that was right there on Earth. With this thought, the astronomer returned to his home, and for the first time in many years, he fell asleep at night. The next morning, he awoke to the sounds of the town coming to life. The air was filled with laughter and quiet chatter, carried on the warm breeze. At first, the astronomer felt a little gloomy. What had he missed in the heavens last night? But as he dressed and stepped outside, he began to feel the stirrings of a smile. His neighbor, who had helped him the night before, invited him to join his family for breakfast. They sat together at an outdoor table, where the astronomer was served delicious, soft bread, crisp on the outside and doughy inside, paired with hard cheeses and a warm mug of strong coffee. How long had it been since he had enjoyed freshly baked bread, or sipped a mug of warm coffee shared with a friend? The simple pleasure of sitting together and talking was something the astronomer had not appreciated for so long. As they ate, the astronomer shared his experience from the night before with his neighbor's wife. Once they were done with breakfast, the couple decided to take him on a walk around the village, eager to show him the beauty of their hometown. They strolled together down the lane, and his neighbors asked him, "Doesn't the soft earth feel wonderful beneath your feet? Can you smell the fresh bread and coffee that everyone else is enjoying this morning?" The astronomer's senses awakened. The aroma of breakfast filled the air, and he noticed how the earth beneath his feet was slightly soft but still firm, cushioning each step he took. In all the hours he had spent wandering the night skies, he had never truly paid attention to the ground beneath him. He thought to himself that if he had been more aware of the earth, he might have avoided tripping over the log the night before. They continued walking and passed a woman selling fruit at a small stand. "I haven't seen you in a while," the fruit seller called out to the astronomer, waving him over. "Come, let's share some fresh juice together." She squeezed oranges into a cup, releasing a delicate, floral scent from the orange blossoms. When the astronomer took his first sip, the cool sweetness of the juice filled his mouth. In that moment he thought to himself, "Yes, the stars at night are beautiful, but you can't drink the stars." The simple pleasure of the fresh orange juice made him realize that the glittering constellations, while breathtaking, were only half as sweet as this earthly delight. His neighbors smiled, seeing the change in him, and told the fruit seller of their mission to help the astronomer see the beauty of the town. The fruit seller then suggested they visit her niece's garden, where even more wonders awaited them. As they walked, the astronomer felt his heart lighten. It was no longer just the stars that captured his attention, but the simple joys of the world around him. The beauty of the earth, the kindness of his neighbors, and the pleasures of the moment had opened his eyes to a whole new perspective on life. The niece smiled warmly and said, "I'll show you the way," closing up her stall in favor of a new adventure. As they walked down the lane, more and more of their neighbors came out to join them. It seemed they weren't used to seeing the astronomer out and about during the day. After all, he was always so wrapped up in his nightly observations of the stars. But today was different. Today, his neighbors were determined to show him the beauty that lay hidden in the daylight. As they strolled together, the astronomer couldn't remember the last time he had been around so many people. He had always preferred the quiet solitude of the night, away from the noise and busyness of the daytime. But now, as he walked alongside his neighbors, he began to notice the melody in their voices, the rhythm of their laughter, and the warmth of their presence. It was a sound he had forgotten, like music he had missed in his silence. When they arrived at the niece's garden, she welcomed them with open arms. What an honor it is to have the great astronomer in my garden for the very first time," she exclaimed. Her smile was bright and inviting, and the whole group settled in to admire the flowers that surrounded them. The niece pointed to a bunch of vibrant red blooms, growing around a wooden archway. "These are special wildflowers," she explained, "created by Aphrodite herself." The astronomer stood under the arch, taking in the sight. The red petals and green leaves mixed harmoniously with the warm brown of the wood overhead. The air smelled piney, with a touch of sweetness that filled his senses. He breathed it in deeply, enjoying the fragrance that seemed to lift his spirit. Next, they walked toward a patch of beautiful purple irises. As the astronomer gazed at them more closely, he could see the delicate white circles surrounding the yellow center, the features that gave the flower its distinctive name. They paused to admire orange lilies and white orchids, immersing themselves in the fresh and fragrant air of the garden. The astronomer was overwhelmed by how alive the earth was with color and scent. It was a sensory experience he had long overlooked, too focused on the heavens above. Yet here, on the earth beneath his feet, he was filled with wonder. When it was time to leave, the niece decided to join the rest of her neighbors on a walk around the village. Watching the astronomer experience these earthly pleasures for the first time reminded everyone just how wonderful life on earth could be. As they left the center of the village, they continued down the road to the Temple of Apollo. The pillars of the temple glittered under the sunlight, and the astronomer couldn't help but notice the change beneath his feet as they stepped from the dark, earthy path onto the cool marble floor of the temple. The warmth of the day was growing, but the cool marble beneath his feet and the roof above offered him a sense of comfort. It was a feeling quite different from the Temple of Artemis, where he usually went to admire the night sky. Here, under the gentle shade of the temple, the astronomer stood still for a moment. His feet pressed into the smooth marble floor, and a light breeze wound its way through the pillars, keeping him cool in the shade. The world around him seemed to slow, and he found himself enjoying the stillness, just being present in the moment. The other townspeople wandered the temple, admiring the statues and the carvings on the walls, but the astronomer stood still, savoring the peacefulness of the space. Perhaps, he thought, it wasn't always necessary to be in motion. Sometimes, it was best to pause and simply enjoy existing in the present. When he was ready, he slowly walked around the walls of the temple, admiring the intricate details the great artists and architects had embedded in the structure. This was a place not just for worship, but also for community gatherings, a place that honored the gods and the beauty of life. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the group left the temple and gathered in the shaded village square for lunch. Each of them brought something to share: soft cheeses, leftover bread from the morning, roasted barley, and juicy olives. The astronomer relished each bite, savoring the rich flavors as they danced on his tongue. He realized how much he had rushed through meals in the past, grabbing bites between long periods of stargazing, always in a hurry to return to his work. Now, as he chewed slowly, he appreciated the simple joy of food and the company of friends. How have I never taken the time to truly experience this? He wondered. The crunchy barley and soft cheese complemented each other perfectly. The fresh bread, still warm, seemed to melt in his mouth. It was a moment of connection, not just with his neighbors, but with the world around him. When they finished the main course, the fruit seller returned with a basket of her produce for dessert. She had gathered fresh fruits, and the villagers drizzled honey over them, making the flavors even sweeter and more decadent. The astronomer took a bite of each fruit, marveling at the rich, vibrant flavors that seemed to burst in his mouth. After the meal, the group lazily walked back to their homes, preparing for a well-deserved nap. They waved goodbye to each other, promising to visit again soon. The astronomer was used to sleeping during the day, but when he arrived home and lay down on his bed, he found that he couldn't fall asleep right away. Instead, he lay there, thinking about everything he had experienced that day. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel the need to rush or think about the stars above. Instead, he felt content, fully present in the moment. And as he drifted off to sleep, he realized that perhaps, for all his stargazing, he had been missing the beauty of the world right beneath his feet. The astronomer lay in stillness, paying close attention to the soft sound of his breath moving gently in and out of his body. He listened to the delicate twittering of birds outside his window, accompanied by the soft buzzing of bees fluttering lazily in the warm air. Through the open window, the scent of flowers from the garden wafted in, filling his senses with the sweet fragrance of blossoms. A light gust of wind swept through, carrying with it the delightful aromas of herbs, spices, and fresh greenery, mingling with the earthiness of the ground. He lay there, completely immersed in the world around him. As his body relaxed into the softness of his bed, every sensation, every sound, scent, and touch reminded him of the beauty of the present moment. He could feel the warmth of the sun streaming through the window, and the coolness of the evening breeze that seemed to gently kiss his skin. The night was approaching, but for now, he rested in perfect stillness, surrounded by the quiet and peace that only the earth can provide. As the sun drifted lower in the sky, the astronomer heard a soft knock at the door. It was his neighbors, who had come to fetch him for one more adventure they wanted to share with him. Together, they walked along the winding path that led up the mountain beside the village. The path was narrower here, and the evening breeze rustled the shrubs and trees that lined their way. Birds flew overhead, their wings fluttering as if curious about the procession of villages below. The astronomer, though accustomed to walking under the starlit sky, now felt the world differently, alive in ways he had never before experienced. Even at night, the sounds and rhythms of the earth had always been distant to him, drowned out by his focus on the stars. But now, as he walked alongside his neighbors, he could feel the subtle vibrancy of life all around him, and it awakened his senses in ways the stars never had. When they reached a plateau, they spread out their blankets and unpacked the food they had brought. The astronomer marveled at the spread. The farmer had brought fresh vegetables and hearty meats, while the fisherman had brought salted herring and calamari. There were boiled eggs, sliced and shared among the group, and everyone offered wine from an ornate glass jug. The people spoke with one another, laughing and exchanging stories, but the astronomer sat in silence, taking everything in. He watched the trees sway gently in the breeze, their leaves casting long shadows on the rocks that dotted the mountainside. He could see the village below, nestled in the valley, and the peak of the mountain rising majestically above him. The air was rich with the aromas of the meal, a comforting mixture of spices and freshly prepared food. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in vibrant hues of yellow, pink, red, and purple, the astronomer found himself enchanted. In all the time he had spent seeking the stars, he had never truly appreciated their opening act. He had always rushed to the end of the day, waiting for the stars to appear, never pausing to enjoy the sunset. But now, for the first time, he allowed himself to savor every shade in the sky as the sun sleepily lowered itself behind the mountain's peak. When the last rays of sunlight disappeared beneath the horizon, The villagers packed up the remaining food and folded their blankets, preparing to return home for the night. But the astronomer stopped them, a sudden thought stirring within him. "Wait," he said. "I have something to show you." The villagers unfolded their blankets once again, and they lay down on the soft earth, watching as the sky above grew dark. Soon, the stars began to glitter in the sky, tiny white and yellow pinpricks of light that seemed to delight the villagers below. The astronomer had seen the stars many times before, but tonight, something was different. As he lay back on his blanket, gazing up at the constellations, he noticed how the bright lights brought out the shadows of the trees and heightened the contrast of the ground below. The stars, once distant and cold, now seemed to glow with a warmth that touched everything around him. He pointed them out to his neighbors, who listened in awe, appreciating the beauty of the night sky through his eyes. One of his neighbors, a thoughtful woman, looked at the astronomer and said, "I understand why you like to walk at night. But isn't it also wonderful to simply be still under the stars?" The astronomer nodded, realizing that he didn't always need to be searching for something new in the sky when so much beauty was unfolding right in front of him. Every night, he lay there, taking it all in, feeling the cool air around him and the comfort of the earth beneath his body. The world was constantly moving, but in this moment, there was peace in the stillness. Sometimes he thought it was best to stop searching, to pause, and simply enjoy the moment as it was. As the villagers continued to lie back, their eyelids growing heavy, they began to yawn, signaling that it was time to pack up and head home. In a slow, careful line, they tiptoed down the mountain, with the astronomer walking among them. He could feel each pebble and twig beneath his feet as they descended. The stars above continued to light their way, their soft glow guiding them home. As they walked, the villagers whispered about all they had seen in the sky. It was a peaceful conversation, filled with wonder and appreciation. When they reached the village square, all the townspeople waved goodbye, one by one, retreating into their homes to rest. The astronomer, too, made his way home. But instead of crawling into bed, he took a pillow and blanket outside. He laid them down on a soft patch of grass and rested his head. Tonight, he would dream of stars once more, but this time, he would truly realize their beauty, not in the rush of discovery, but in the peaceful quiet of the night. As he closed his eyes, the gentle hoot of an owl in the distance lulled him into a deep, peaceful sleep. Under the glorious night sky, the astronomer rested, finally at peace with both the stars above and the earth below. As the night deepens and the stars twinkle brightly above, remember the peace that comes from simply being present. Just like the astronomer, we too can find beauty in the quiet moments, in the earth beneath our feet, and in the gentle rhythm of our breath. May tonight's story remind you that sometimes the greatest wonders aren't far away in the sky, but right here with us, in the simple joys of life. Now, as you rest, let go of all the day's thoughts and allow your mind to drift gently into peaceful sleep. Trust that tomorrow will bring new opportunities. But for now, know that you are safe, you are loved, and you are exactly where you need to be. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with warmth, light, and the beauty of the world around you. Sleep well, under the comforting embrace of the stars.